And the Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winnehaven, and even Wachoo. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers entered the stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Welcome to San Diego, California, Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18, dropping Gannon, looking, throws up in the head, intercepted at the 40, Derek Brooks 30, Brooks to the 25, 20, Derek Brooks all the way, there it is, the dagger's in, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell.
Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why do you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time, throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw, throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Super Bowl 55 will be underway at Raymond James Stadium. Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them. Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. Second down, 13. Brady lobs one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski inside the 20 to the 15-10. Gronkowski to the 5 to the 4-yard line. Holy guacamole. Here's the snap. Pressure coming from the outside. Brady throws a pass. Caught ball first out of the 50. Outside the numbers 40 to the 30-yard line. To the 25. It's Perriman. Bashaud Perriman. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Bucs win in overtime.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty, Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish of BucsNation.com. It's been a minute since we talked to you. Last time we did a podcast, we were joined by our buddy Gene from Buck What You Heard. Talked about a lot of different things from one of the most exciting Tampa Bay off seasons of all time. And believe it or not, we are back today with even more news on the subject. We got the latest additions from a wild week around the NFL. And of course, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a couple of re-signings, a couple of new faces we'll talk about. We're also going to take some time to grade out some of the moves they've made so far. I guess give a letter grade on some specific moves. Some people feel strongly about some moves that they were very, very good. I feel like Tom Brady coming back has to be an A++ out of default. I know an A++ isn't necessarily something that we got a whole lot in school, but I don't know how else to grade that move, to be honest with you. But Evan, before we dive into everything, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing quite well. And there's been, there's a decent amount of news this past week from the Bucs. So excited to dive into it. And it's crazy how we are in draft month, right? I mean, we haven't really talked about the draft much. Our draft coverage will be coming here shortly. They'll probably our next few episodes will probably be focused on the draft, more so, and less of free agency. But it's crazy that it's draft month. But so far right now, I'm ready to get rolling and talk about a little bit of more, free agency flurries here by the Bucs.
Yeah, and as far as the timetable goes for the Buccaneers and their return to the facility, We are actually 1 week away from the start of their offseason training program, so guys can obviously show up. I don't know if I'm expecting a Tom Brady to be there, but April 14th is when guys are able to come back into the building and have an organized workout of sorts, because I think that's almost what that program is just kind of glorified workouts. But hey, it's players back in the facility. And then we look at the timetable of the offseason. What's funny as far as free agency and then kind of that dead period between free agency and the draft is like last year and even the 2020 offseason when the Bucs got Tom Brady the first time, it felt like there was a little bit more of a dead period, right? Like last year in particular, we talk about the initial flurry of signings, the excitement of getting everybody back, covering that news. And then it felt like, this time last year, there wasn't a whole lot of news and the cycle had slowed down probably a couple of weeks before now. But like you've alluded to, the Bucs have done a good job of not only keeping us on our toes with regular news coming out, and of course we'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, it just does feel like there's so much more to talk about this time of year than there usually is, and that's a great feeling too.
Yeah, and I mean, not even just with the Bucs, just this offseason in general, really. But yeah, I mean, it's April 7th, and obviously the Bucs still have some guys unsigned that were on the team last year. Most notably, the 3 guys I think when you're looking at it are Jason Pierre-Paul, Ndamukong Suh, and Rob Gronkowski. Those are the 3 I would say. And we'll have to wait and see on those guys. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's been an active period for not just the Bucs, but honestly, the entire league. So.
Oh yeah, man. Let's really quickly, before we get into the news, shout out to everybody watching us live on YouTube. Edwin Hernandez, the moderator, Willie Beeman holding it down. Our buddy Danny, Richard T, Go Bucks, Go Bolts from Germany. And of course, our buddy from Bucks UK, Adam, the other moderator, holding it down. Thank you guys for being here. Anybody else I may have missed, we appreciate your support. So let's get into the news. The latest acquisition for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, former Cowboy safety Keanu Neal. This guy is a former first-round pick for the Atlanta Falcons. He played in Dallas last year, and what's interesting about his time as a Cowboy is that Dan Quinn came to town, changed around the defense a little bit, and they found a better use for Keanu Neal at linebacker. So he switched from safety to linebacker. Didn't entirely work out too well for him, but I guess a good thing for the Bucs, and we can kind of talk about his fit as maybe a replacement for a guy like Jordan Whitehead. Keanu Neal, man, he's a hitter, and I think that's maybe why they wanted to put him at linebacker a little bit in that defense. But I think this is an underrated signing, and I guess we'll throw the letter grade on top of it after we're done talking about it. But Keanu Neal, great value, by the way, coming to Tampa Bay on the contract that he is. But I like this signing a lot, man. What are your thoughts, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of caught me off guard. Wasn't really expecting them to add a more depth at safety there. Figured they would just go into draft with what they had. But maybe this means they don't pick a safety now, or if they do, it's much later than anticipated. I thought safety might have been one of their first 4 picks. Now I'm not so sure. I do realize that Logan Ryan and Keanu Neal both signed 1-year deals, which doesn't, and Mike Edwards is also a free agent next year. So it doesn't completely rule out drafting a safety, but I would be pretty surprised, considering the depth that they have there right now, if they spent a 1st, 2nd, 3rd round pick on a safety at that point. So, I mean, Neal, it's an interesting thing. Because he, like you said about the safety linebacker safety thing, when he was healthy in Atlanta and playing safety, he was one of the better safeties in the NFL. He's only 26 years old right now, which is kind of crazy. He feels like he's been in the league much longer than that, but he's only 26 years old. And, a lot of people could say, yeah, he can lay the boom, right? He can really hit, and I think he'll play. The role I think the Bucs might envision for him is 2019 when Bruce Arians and company first took over. They signed Deion Buchanan. I'm viewing Keanu Neal as that type of player, right? In that type of role, that money backer, kind of like a safety, but basically a linebacker, on passing downs to playing coverage and stuff. That's how I'm viewing Keanu Neal. but if he can stay healthy, he can be a formidable player. And really, it's a strong value signing as well. They're really finding a lot of value here, and it's a pretty good fit. I was kind of surprised and was kind of a little disappointed when they decided, when it came out a few days before free agency, that they were going to let Andrew Adams hit the open market. Well, to replace him, I think you got two players that are probably better than Andrew Adams in Logan Ryan and Keanu Neal. I know Keanu Neal and Andrew Adams aren't exactly the same player, like they're completely different players. But at the time I was like, that's kind of a head scratcher. But now you see that they've added depth at safety. They've let Jordan Whitehead walk, and they needed to give another option for that run defense, type safety. And I think they found it with both Logan Ryan and Keanu Neal. Logan Ryan's more of your safety / corner. I think Keanu Neal is more your safety / linebacker. So that's where I think the value in this signing really comes into play.
Yeah, and then we talk about the value with the signing. It's a 1-year deal for Keanu Neal. The numbers look like this. It is a veteran a veteran salary benefit deal. So $1.12 million plus a $152,000 bonus, counting to just over $1 million against the cap for Tampa Bay. Similar situation is Logan Ryan, and then of course another guy that we're about to talk about on the other side of the football. But again, man, just you gotta show some appreciation to what they're doing as far as cap gymnastics. And it's funny because we look at teams like the Rams, and somebody had actually left a comment on one of our videos lately saying that the Bucs are taking the cheap way out. And I guess, they're going to get left in the dust, which is kind of an interesting observation. But, with teams like the Rams doing what they are, you get led to believe that the cap is a myth, but like cap gymnastics are still very much a real thing. And I think we have to appreciate what, Greenberg, Jackie Davidson, Jason Light, everybody in the front office that we gush about every single time this time of year comes around. Like you have to appreciate, I think, what a good job they are doing, because it's not necessarily that the Bucs are taking the cheap way out. These guys are coming here for less money to play with Tom Brady. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like there's two different ways to look at it. I don't think the cheap way out at all is what they're doing here, especially when you're finding value in guys like Keanu Neal, who is 26 years old. And we'll kind of talk about the letter grade here for a second. Honestly, I give this move an A-, and the only reason it isn't a B+, because I was kind of torn on that, is because you look at your options next year at safety. Logan Ryan, he could be back, but Keanu Neal being 26 years old is huge. I mean, if Mike Edwards is wanting more money than the Bucs are ready to give him, it opens the door a little bit for maybe, some flexibility at the safety position, given what you have in that room already. But like, let me rewind my question here. Let me pose this to you, and then I want to get your letter grade on Keanu Neal at the end of it. But like, are the Bucs taking the cheap way out? Is that kind of a weird way of looking at it? Because I don't think that's the case here.
No, I mean, it's all about where you spend your resources. The Bucs are paying big money to an offensive tackle, a center, a right guard. I mean, Shaq Mason's making, $8.5 million, but still, that's still good money. They're I understand the cap hits and everything, but the quarterback, 3 wide receivers now are making premium money. Their defensive line, they have Shaq Barrett. They just signed Vita Vea to a deal, which, yes, this cap hit goes into effect next year, but you have to think about the long-term effects of using void years and everything like that. 2 linebackers, and then the corner who they just paid. And, they have young, cheaper safeties. That's the position that sort of, you have to make sacrifices, right? So I would argue that the Bucs aren't necessarily taking the cheap way out, because I'm sure if you looked at the Rams, there's spots on the Rams that the Rams don't spend a ton of money, right? Like there are spots on the Rams where they're not spending a ton of money. I don't know off the top of my head, but I don't think the Rams have spent a ton of money at safety. I don't think the Rams definitely haven't spent nearly as much money on the offensive line as the Bucs have. So I think it looks like the Rams are signing the big names, right? The Bobby Wagner, who Bobby Wagner's good, don't get me wrong, but he's not the same player that he once was. He's a good player, but like this isn't 2017 Bobby Wagner. Like it's not what you're getting. And I think people look at that and they kind of wonder, well, the Rams are doing all this. Why can't the Bucs? You can. It's a different philosophy. And like I said, you only have so many resources. The cap's a myth, whatever. The cap's not a myth, but it can be heavily manipulated.
No,
right?
you said it, and you meant it.
No,
the cap's a myth.
It's not a myth.
Listen,
tell that to the Saints, who just had to let Marcus Williams and Teron Armstead walk in the same offseason and had to let Trey Hendrickson walk last offseason. You can't keep everybody. So,
I also think as far as, I think as far as free agency goes, the Bucs and the Rams are going to be compared all offseason because one team, well, I guess both teams are looking to retain as many stars as they can. But a lot of Bucs fans look at what the Rams are doing and think we should be in that camp. But it's also two very different situations. Like, in a sense, yeah, the Bucs are kicking the can down the road as far as Tom Brady goes. But a lot of these 3-year deals, like, they're setting this team up to succeed beyond Tom Brady. The Rams, I'm not really sure what kind of deal they're giving to Bobby Wagner or all these guys that they're signing this year. But this is a team that is going to have to, I guess face the consequences of their own actions here within the next 2 years. And the Bucs, yeah, they're going to have to do that. Like every offseason, you're going to have to probably lose some guys to maybe be not as good at certain positions. But the deals that they're making right now, like it's not just an all or nothing thing for 2022. Like this is a team that's still going to try and be competitive here for the next 3 to 4 years at the very least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, it's, I'm sure the Rams have that idea too. It's just, it's a more aggressive approach, right? It's the Rams have taken a way more aggressive approach. And, look, both teams got their Super Bowls, both teams got Super Bowls. So both teams' approaches worked, right? Like it's clear, the Rams approach of trading away draft picks and getting elite players, for those draft picks and paying them. It didn't work out for a little bit, but eventually it did. And then the Bucs of, keeping your players and trying to build up your team until you need that one piece and then getting that one piece, that works too. So, it's just, to me, it's difference in philosophy. Every team has a different philosophy. Every single team. Like it doesn't matter who you are. Every single team has a different philosophy. So as far as letter grade, I'll give this a B+. Just because I'm not sure how healthy he can stay. That's been the big knock on him his entire career. That's the reason he didn't stay in Atlanta, and it didn't really work out for him in Dallas. I understand, like with the linebacker thing and stuff is a little weird, but I'll give it a B+ because there's not much risk. Right. I mean, they're not going to ask Keanu Neal. And I saw some people, Winfield and Neal will be the starters. Slow down on that maybe, because I don't know if you should pencil in Keanu Neal as the starting strong safety. I don't think so. I think he'll contribute, right? He'll contribute.
He's probably
in
one of your
ways.
best, as far as run support. I think he's probably one of the best options in that safety room. Antoine Winfield isn't too bad either, but it seems like you're going to see a lot of Keanu Neal on maybe blitzing downs or just, run situations. Like it seems like run support is going to be his bread and butter this year. Yeah.
But, it's like I said, the upside is there. We mentioned how he's 26. The upside is there. He's a former first-round pick, right? And he was good in Atlanta. Like he's had good seasons in the NFL. We'll see if he gets back to that, right? It could be him, looking to prove himself. We'll see how creative Todd Bowles gets with him. I think he's the type of player you get creative with. You can have a little fun with, put him in different spots. Deion Buchanan, I was disappointed, right? I mean, you were really disappointed by it because I think they had this vision for him that he was going to be able to go into the box and blitz while also cover and play some strong safety, play some linebacker, rush the passer a little bit. And he just wasn't really able to do any of those things great. So hopefully Keanu Neal is a better version of that. And like I said, I think that's a pretty good comparable. Not saying the actual player, but the player in the situation. I think that's what the Bucs could view Neal as.
This next bit of news happened on April Fool's, and funny enough, nobody wanted to believe it when we announced that it had happened, because we didn't do like an official podcast April Fool's joke, but Julian Edelman had floated out there that he's going to be signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on April Fool's Day. Most people with common sense saw right through it, but a lot of people were upset, maybe emotionally attached to a Julian Edelman, Tom Brady retirement, or, reunion. Sorry, that's the word that I'm looking for, down here in Tampa Bay. So that was fake news, but a couple hours after that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers agreed to terms with running back Giovani. Oh, go ahead. Who's the guy they brought back?
What do you mean Giovani Bernard?
Yeah.
Is that who you mean? Okay. Stephen Shea, shout out. Come on the pod, Stephen. Come on the pod, Shea. Come on.
The Buccaneers pass catching.
If you guys are watching this and you know who we're talking about, at Stephen Shea on Twitter or Instagram,
you should.
And
Actually,
tell him to come on Cannon Fire podcast.
Yeah, just to get him to do that, and then once he does the Giovani Bernard thing, we'll kick him off the show. No, we'd love to have him on here, man. If you guys know him on social media, at Stephen Shea, I'm pretty sure he's committed to the TB12 method for like the rest of the calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Tom Brady coming back out of retirement, I believe he may have made a bet that if Brady comes back, he'll, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Giovani Bernard. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers agreed to terms with running back Gio Bernard on a 1-year deal. This is a guy who had multiple offers but chose to return back to Tampa Bay. And very similar to Keanu Neal, I believe it is a veteran salary benefit deal. Right around $1 million cap hit. I don't know if the numbers are the exact same, but just following the theme of the last signing, more great value for Tampa Bay. I'm going to give this move a B. It's safe. You know what I mean? It's Gio Bernard. I'm kind of glad to see him come back. I don't think he's going to have any bigger of a role this year, but he did have some production every now and again last year. A couple of touchdowns, found himself in the end zone, but I like Gio. And if we get another year of saying Giovani Bernard, then I'm down for that.
I think mine's better, but
yours is, well, you had more practice. I didn't. Guys, before we hit record, he probably must have done that like 8 or 9 times, just trying to get all the practice reps in that you can.
Yeah, I mean, I have to practice. I mean, come on.
You're a natural performer.
Practice makes perfect. So yeah, he did. The Gio is back on the veteran salary benefit thing. So yeah, yet again, I like how you describe that, safe, right? Yeah. Like it's what you have. He's nothing more, nothing less. Like what you have with him. What you're gonna get. Will he play as much? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what they do in the draft. But go ahead.
Our buddy Lobello in the live chat really quickly. Just want to make sure we pay attention every now and again. We listen to you guys in the live chat, I promise. But here's a good point. This is a question I want to pose. Could Giovani Bernard see an increased workload with Ronald Jones gone? Because, I mean, balancing Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones was enough of a task as it was. But, I mean, could that open the door for Gio to get in there a little bit? We know that the draft is obviously still coming, and it seems like maybe the Bucs could look at adding another running back, whether it is through free agency or the draft. But do you think Gio, being a little bit more of a tenured guy in this offense at this point, could go out there and catch some more passes?
I don't know. Just because, I mean, like, Rojo wasn't in on like passing downs anyway. So like, what is Gio gonna actually do, right? Like, I'm not sure. And before the draft, I understand that you said it, you go pre-draft, right? It's tough to say. It's because they go out and they add a running back in the 2nd or 3rd round. Then no, like of course not. But I think Gio's role is gonna be relatively the same. Like I really do. I wouldn't expect anything more or anything less. Just like I said earlier, I think he's a solid, reliable 3rd down option. Also, I've talked about it a lot. My biggest fear is Leonard Fournette going back to his old ways and not being able to catch the football. If that happens, the Bucs now have an insurance policy because they know that Bernard is reliable enough to be able to catch the ball. They didn't give Gio as many carries, and I think maybe that's what the chat was alluding to, like maybe like more actual carries for Bernard. We'll have to wait and see, but I wouldn't expect it. I'm not sure I'm 50-50 still on if they're going to add a running back fairly early in the draft. It wouldn't shock me either way. But I do expect one more running back to be added somehow, whether it's a 7th round pick or another free agent, whatever. I do expect that. And I mean, also, Keyshawn Vaughn's there, and they seem
your boy Sneak.
he's not gonna be out. Giovani Bernard, but he's not gonna beat him out. Like, come on. But I mean, if they want to get Vaughn more carries under center, then maybe Bernard's role is, less, or Vaughn proves himself as a pass catcher, but I think to start the season, especially, I think Bernard's role was going to be very similar to what it was last year. And it worked, you would have liked him to play a little bit more. He battled some injuries along the way last season. But it worked, and I'm excited to see him back. It's cool to see him back. Like you said, it's safe. So I will also give it a B.
Yeah. Depending on, obviously the running back that they add, if we're looking at the draft, there's a lot of different options there, a lot of different, I guess, what's the word that I'm looking for? A lot of different types of running backs. Yeah, sure. There's a lot of variety as far as the type of back you want to go, but I have to assume here that if the Bucs are going to add another running back at this point, it's probably going to be a guy to maybe relieve Leonard Fournette a little bit, take some carries, because we talk about running the ball more. I don't think Gio Bernard's going to get an opportunity to do that. Maybe having on there in more passing downs could be interesting throughout the 17-game season, which we just talked about. But, if they are going to add another guy, like I said, I want to assume that it's going to be someone that's probably going to be splitting carries. I don't know quite as much as they had tried to do with Ronald Jones in the past, because I think when you pay Leonard Fournette the way that you do, you're paying that guy to run the ball because that's what he does well. And yeah, he can catch the ball, but that's why you have an insurance policy in Gio Bernard, just in case he can't. So I can't imagine that there's a running back who's going to take away that many carries from Leonard Fournette, but that's kind of my thought process there as far as adding another running back to that room. And our buddy in the live chat, Dark Angel, says, is the class of running backs good this year? Because you had alluded to the Bucs possibly looking early in the draft, but if they look later in the draft at a running back, are there any guys that could catch their eye? Is it a good class this year or no?
Well, I don't. So the thing about this class, there's not much, and I would say for the overall class itself, I don't know how much elite, high-end talent there is, but it's very deep. So I don't believe there's a first-round worthy running back. But I also, I can name you 5 or 6 guys right now that I would be perfectly fine if I'm a GM with taking on day 2 or early day 3. Guys like James Cook, who obviously, people know very well, brother Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, Damian Pierce, Brian Robinson. There's a lot of good guys. And then you got Zamir White, the other back from Georgia, Max Borghi, a lot of people like him, Rashad White. There's a lot of options there. Rashad White would be one of my favorites, I think, early on day 3. Maybe late on day 2 if you had to. He would be one of my favorites. We'll see what happens. But I do think that eventually, there's a spot where a running back may make sense. Like I said, the Bucs have not been kind to me when it comes to running backs because they never seem to take the running backs that I want them to. So we'll see what happens. This year's guy that I really don't want them to take is Isaiah Spiller, and it's apparently the guy who they've shown heavy interest in. So I'm like, of course. But it'll be interesting to see. I would be shocked if they took a running back in the first round. I'd be shocked if anybody took a running back in the first round. But I think you're going to see a lot of backs go on day 2. I think you're going to see a good amount go on day 2, and then there's going to be some left over in that day 3. And you could maybe, be able to get that there. Real quick, before we move on to our last sort of free agency transaction, I want to answer this question by Richard. I feel like this D-line class is the biggest need, but not a good crop in this rookie class. Would you be opposed to trading a first-round pick for a premier defensive tackle? I wouldn't, because the Bucs are in win-now mode. However, just what we talked about, the cap can be manipulated, but don't know if you can afford that. Like, a premium defensive tackle who's not being paid a whole lot. Okay, then he's probably a young player. So why would that team give up that player, right? I'm not sure if that's very realistic. So we'll see. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd be surprised. I'd be very surprised if it happened. I'm not saying it's going to happen at all. But yeah, I just don't think they have the money for a move like that. But you are right to where like the defensive line right now, right? And obviously there's still a ton of free agents, a ton of talent out there that they can sign for, the longer guys sit, the lower their price goes. Right. So, there's a ton of talent out there that they could sign, and all of a sudden the defensive line's looking a little bit better. Ndamukong Suh's still out there. They want to re-sign him. She's looking a little bit better. Still not a finished product, but a little bit better.
It's been reported there is mutual interest. It seems like the Bucs and Suh want to get a deal done.
Would be surprised if that doesn't happen.
Right.
But I think it's just I think the Bucs may be waiting and see how the draft shakes out. So we'll see. I agree that the defensive line does need to be upgraded. Fletcher Cox is actually no longer available. He did re-sign with the Eagles. That was the expectation once he was released. He was just going to re-sign with the Eagles. Ben brings up a good point with Calais Campbell. He's another guy out there that could make a lot of sense. Doesn't have as much history with Todd Bowles as he did with Bruce Arians, but there still is a connection there. I know the Bucs have showed interest in him in the past, so a guy like Campbell can make sense. We'll have to wait and see how the draft goes, though. But as far as trading the first round pick for a defensive tackle or defensive line of any kind, I'd be very surprised.
Let's go ahead and get into this last bit of news before we start grading out the Bucs moves in free agency. Our backup is back, man. The gift of Gabbert. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have re-signed backup quarterback Blaine Gabbert. So the QB room for 2022, as it looks right now, Tom Brady, Blaine Gabbert, Ryan Griffin, and Kyle Trask. So this one we saved for last because
Willie Beeman with the $10 super chat.
Let's go, Willie. Clap it up for the boy. Thank you for donating to the Wendy's Fun Friend.
Hey guys, I love defensive tackle Fedarian Mathis. He has a motor that doesn't stop. He clogs like the running lanes with 10.5 sacks. Yeah, I'm still kind of iffy on his range in terms of where he'll get drafted. I think day 2 is probably a sweet spot. I would be surprised if he went day 1. So he could be an option. I don't know what the Bucs think of him, but he could be an option for sure. Joel Enriquez in the chat. I believe Joel, he was the winner of our giveaway, and he added us on Twitter. It's a great shirt. I hope you're enjoying it.
We had to call him out on the last podcast, but we were able to finally get in touch with him. Enjoy your shirt, man. There should be more giveaways like that. But yeah, Joel is the Twitter winner. I said that weird. He was the winner over on Twitter of our Smack Apparel giveaway. He got the God Bless Giselle shirt. And hopefully we'll be teaming up with those guys throughout the rest of the season and doing a lot more giveaways for you guys. But let's talk about Blaine Gabbert, man. So this is a very decisive topic. And I mean, listen, I get it. I get it.
Well, at least one of us gets it.
I get it. Like, I get it to a degree. But the part that baffles me is I don't know why people are so shocked that Blaine Gabbert is back in Tampa Bay for what's going to be his 4th season as a backup, right? He got here in 2019?
Yes.
So Blaine Gabbert's back. It's a familiar system. And I know that a lot of people are upset that Kyle Trask might not be your QB2, but he wasn't going to be your QB1 if Tom Brady didn't come back. So I feel like Kyle Trask is going to have even more of a fair shot this year to win the QB2 job in camp. And if he can't do that against Blaine Gabbert, it's kind of nothing to be ashamed of. But I don't know why we're so shocked that Blaine Gabbert is back in the red and pewter for his 4th season.
No, I don't know. It's people have signaled like, oh, well, Gabbert's a quarterback too. Who said that? You got a whole training camp of preseason.
Right. That's something else that a lot of people haven't remembered is that Kyle Trask is going to have a shot to earn his job as Tom Brady's backup. Like QB2 Trask, I'm here for it. I'd like to see it happen. That's your 2nd round pick. But I'm not upset saying that Kyle Trask is a wasted pick or a waste of money just yet because Tom Brady came back. Like that's the context that everybody seems to be forgetting every now and again when we talk about quarterbacks on this team. Like, you've got Tom effing Brady on your team.
Yeah, and Joel in the chat says if Trask can't beat out RG4 or Gabbert, then he shouldn't get a spot. Well, technically, he's already beat out Ryan Griffin. Griffin was a guy who is going to be on the practice squad. That's just for another camp arm, guy who knows the system. They'll probably end up adding an undrafted free agent too, somewhere, just to have a lot of arms in camp.
You gotta put some respect on Ryan Griffin's name. That's the longest tenured quarterback in Buccaneers history.
I know that is going to be in 10, 15 years, right? If there's no, if the Bucs don't find like a 23-year-old franchise quarterback, and they're still going 3-4 years of quarterbacks, that is going to be one heck of a trivia question. That is going to stump so many people. They're going to be like, Jameis Winston, Josh Freeman. No, it's Ryan Griffin, who never started a single game for them.
Should put him in the Ring of Honor for that.
I know. He's a record holder.
It's been so hard for quarterbacks to keep jobs in Tampa Bay. And listen, he's never been our starter, but this dude's been around for almost a decade.
I know. I hope he does make it to 10 years. I hope he does. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know why it's so shocking. I thought this was the expectation.
I kind of thought we all assumed this was going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe what threw people off guard was the Ryan Griffin re-signing. I think they were like, oh, okay, well, Trask is the quarterback 2, and then Griffin's 3. And then once Gabbert came back, they're like, wait, what? I think that kind of threw some people off. I see in the chat, Gabbert was a waste of money. Could have put that somewhere else. It's $1 million.
Yeah,
it's a veteran minimum. It's not as big of a deal as you think. So, it's a backup quarterback. If you see Blaine Gabbert on the football field this year, and the score is close, things have gone horribly wrong. So that means that that Tom Brady is hurt, or he just sucks. So, if Blaine Gabbert is on the football field in a meaningful spot, right? If Blaine Gabbert, Kyle Trask, any of them, if any of them besides Tom Brady is on the field during the regular season, it doesn't seem to matter, right? And maybe, Edwin brings up a good point. He said, I would like to see Trask with the starters this preseason. We don't know how much Tom Brady is going to play in the preseason. We have no idea. Is he going to play one game? Is he going to play any? We don't know. I don't think he needs to play any, but he might want to. If he doesn't, does Trask maybe get a series or 2 with the starters? Who knows? I just don't think the Bucs are going to be going into this with, Gabbert is the Gabbert's the quarterback 2 and Trask is 3. That's not the thing. Signing Gabbert was a huge waste of cap. He said Tom Brady gets hurt, doesn't matter. If he's Gabbert, only loses. If Trask is an unknown, and $1 million can go a long way. Not as long of a way as you seem to think. It's not a huge waste of cap. I don't know. I don't know. I think the stigma around Blaine Gabbert is very, very strange. I don't know why. It's a backup quarterback. Who cares? Is signing Blaine Gabbert mean that they're not going to sign Tyrann Mathieu? No, the things aren't correlated. So they're not connected.
Before we throw a letter grade on this,
do we even need to?
B, say it's as safe as it gets. It's the backup quarterback. There you go. B for Blaine. If Blaine Gabbert doesn't play in Tampa Bay, are there any better backup quarterback options floating around the league right now? I don't know.
There's better backup quarterbacks, but $1 million. Okay. There's better backup quarterbacks, but
not for $1 million.
One also not for knowing the system, Yeah. So okay, LaBello, you say that $1 million can go to draft picks. The draft picks are getting paid anyway. What do you mean? You need to have a certain amount of money to sign your draft picks, but the draft picks get signed. It's not like there's much negotiations with draft picks. Don't worry about the draft picks being signed. If that's what you're worried about, don't. Yeah, I mean, for somebody who knows the system and who they feel comfortable with, you're probably not going to find somebody for $1 million, right? I mean, I forget what Teddy Bridgewater got. I think he got 6 or 7 million. That's a high end backup, right? But that's also a team that had some quarterback questions and had a quarterback in Tua with some durability issues. So, I do think that in the Bucs situation, sure, there could have been better options, but you're going to pay more. And based on how people are reacting to $1 million for Blaine Gabbert, I'm not sure how they would have liked $4 to $5 million for a Jacoby Brissett or something. Not sure how they would have liked that, considering how they're reacting to this.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes of this podcast as we start to wrap things up. It is our letter grade. So we are going to go through every single move the Buccaneers have made in free agency up until this point. We'll keep it short and sweet, but I want to put a letter grade on just about everything that they have done as we grade out this free agency. So we mentioned at the top of the show, Tom Brady coming back out of retirement. That's an A++. I don't think it can be anything else. It's not just an A+, it's an A++ because it saved the Bucs from a season of mediocrity. And for that, we are thankful. So Tom Brady, we thank you so much for coming back. The move the Bucs made just a couple hours after the GOAT announced his return, they have re-signed center Ryan Jensen to a 3-year deal worth $39 million. You get your center back, and it's not just your center, it's Brady's center. These guys have a relationship, but Ryan Jensen has really carved out a path as a top 5 safety in the NFL these past couple of seasons. That's center. An A. It's an A. Did you say 7?
No, you said safety. I corrected you and said center.
Oh man,
I mean, I would pay to see that though.
Yeah, that'd be something.
You want to talk about a strong safety? That's a definition of a strong safety.
Oh man, I'll give it an A. Bringing back your center, Ryan Jensen. I'm a big fan of Ryan Jensen. Glad to see Big Red back in Tampa Bay, and it's a great move for this offensive line, especially after the departure of Alex Kappa, Ali Marpet. Ryan Jensen being back, it's an A.
Yeah, I'll agree with both of those. A plus whatever for Brady, and even though technically that wasn't a Bucs move, but like whatever.
Right, yeah.
And then a Jensen, yeah, I'll give it an A, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into this next one here. After that, hold on, I actually got to pull it up. So I don't take a ton of notes anymore, if you guys haven't noticed. So sometimes it takes me an extra minute. All right, so the next move after that, as far as acquiring players, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Carlton Davis reached agreement on a 3-year, $45 million deal. I'll give this one an A. It was probably close to the top of the priority list as far as, guys that you need to re-sign. I think Carlton Davis was included in the big 3. And that's your number 1 corner. Number 1 corners in the NFL, they're a dime a dozen. They're hard to find. It's not like the Bucs were going to go into the draft at 27 and find a new number 1 corner. I don't know any guys on this team currently who people would feel confident enough 17 games out of the year to call their number 1 corner. Excuse me. I think Carlton. Yeah, I know. Words are hard, man. I got marbles in my mouth. Yeah, I'll give this an A. I'm glad to see Carlton back. It's a safe move. It's a good move for the Buccaneers. You bring him back for 3 years. I mean, what do you want from me, Evan?
I don't know. I might have to go ask the Cardinal. I don't know. Oh man.
What do you think of Carlton being back?
I'll give it an A-. Just because I wish it was a year or 2 longer. Just wanted more long-term security. But like you said, you can't lose your number 1 corner. So that was a priority. And, I'll give it an A-. I think it's a good deal. Like I talked about on the podcast a few weeks ago, I think it's a good deal for both sides.
Yeah. All right. Here's another one that's probably going to be an A, but former Falcons receiver Russell Gage signs a 3-year deal with Tampa Bay. I'll give this one an A-. Sorry, I got the dogs barking and everything. I know y'all can hear them. I'll give this one an A, and then I'm going to toss it over to Evan. I like this move a lot. There's a lot of moves that are going to be an A, and I know I sound like the biggest homer on the planet right now, but I think Russell Gage is your wide receiver 3 is one of the best options they could have had, considering you hang on to Chris Godwin. Mike Evans, of course, still getting paid to be your wide receiver 1. Like, the shape that they have kept this wide receiver room in, I know the lack of depth got exposed, and we'll address that here in a minute, but I think Russell Gage being your guy for the next 3 years at least is a pretty awesome deal because he is a stud.
Yeah, I'll give it a B+. Mostly because it's a little bit more than I would have spent probably on a receiver. I would have just maybe gone a little cheaper and then spent a draft pick on a receiver. And two, just those types of players that are in that mold of, like, hey, they're special teamers, and then they come out of nowhere and they become good receivers. And like, yeah, I think Gage will be good, but like, it always gives me certain pause. I'm like, okay, is he just good in a Falcons uniform? Is that system perfect for him? And when he goes somewhere else, is he going to be able to translate that? And for $10 million, you better hope he does, because if he doesn't, then that is a terrible signing. So I think it's a good signing. I don't think it's great. So I'll give it a B+.
Well, as far as my record shows, the Buccaneers are working on principles on a roll, because this is a move. This is probably one of my favorite moves that they have made. The Patriots traded longtime starting guard Shaq Mason to Tampa Bay. It was a 5th-round pick, folks. It's a favorable contract. I know you might be shocked, but I'm going to give this one an A+ solely because of the price that they got him. If it wasn't a 5th-round pick, then maybe it's like an A- or just a regular A. But I think they did the best they possibly could at addressing the guard position after losing Ali Marpet, after losing Alex Kappa. Shaq Mason, he's a solid talent, right? I mean, he is one of the better guards in the NFL, and the fact that they fleeced New England the way that they did to get this guy in the red and pewter, that's an A+ in my book, especially because the trenches are obviously the most important place on the field too.
I'll go A. I'll go an A for this one. The only thing that gives me pause is, like, I know a lot of people say, oh, Bill Belichick without Tom Brady, like, he hasn't won much. You always have pause when dealing with the Patriots because if the Patriots don't want that player, why? Why don't they want that player? So that gives me some pause, but yeah, for a 5th-round pick, it's worth the risk, So, I mean, I think he's one of the better right guards, possibly one of the best right guards in the NFL. So, but that also, why was he only dealt for a 5th-round pick then? Yeah. So I do think it's a really, really good deal. It filled a big hole, and yeah, I'll give it an A.
We go back to the wide receiver room as the Buccaneers re-signed wide receiver Brashad Perryman on a 1-year deal. It's a B. It's a safe thing.
Safe.
We talked about the lack of depth, and this is how you address it. When you're talking about Brashad Perryman, who has had to carry the load on this football team before, when this guy is like your wide receiver 5, that's a very favorable position to have him in. Of course, throughout camp, it'll be interesting to see if he can develop. I mean, you kind of know what you have with him. But he did have some great moments. He had the overtime win against Buffalo last year, and it's good to see him back, especially since he has had 2 tenors with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's good to see him back in the good uniforms because, man, when he was balling out for us back in 2019 in those ugly-ass alarm clock uniforms, it was good to see him then, and he stepped up when he needed to, but it's a B. It's wide receiver depth, and it's exactly what they needed to address this offseason.
Yep. Not much more to say. B. Yep. Safe.
Cam Brate, we don't have to put a grade on that.
Yeah, that's not,
Yeah, it's a restructure. All right, here we go. The big one. Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin. They reached agreement on a 3-year, $60 million deal that included $40 million fully guaranteed at signing. That's a hell of a lot of money, but it's the price to pay to keep a guy like Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay. I'm going to give this one... I wanted to go A-, but I'm probably going to stick with an A. And I say this because of the wide receiver market right now. What guys are being paid. I mean, Christian Kirk for a time being was the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Tyreek Hill getting ridiculous money in Miami. Stephon Diggs just signed a big deal with Buffalo. And the Bucs got Chris Godwin, who very well could have gotten paid just as much as those guys did. They got him for 3 years at $20 million. That is... I mean, that's a great way to break the bank. I know paying a wide receiver $20 million a year doesn't sound ideal, but when it's Chris Godwin and you keep him paired up with Mike Evans and you're guaranteed to have Chris Godwin and Russell Gage on your team for the next 3 years, I like that move. So I'll give it an A.
Yeah, I'll go with an A. I mean, and the guys you mentioned, besides Christian Kirk, like we're not saying those guys don't deserve it. Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs definitely, deserve, and Devontae Adams. It's a good point by Richard. All really got paid and they've earned those. And Christian Kirk was the only one where you're looking at like, whoa, like good for you, man, getting your money. But that's a lot of money. So yeah, I mean, it was really good to just get Chris Godwin locked up. You didn't want to play on the franchise tag, and that part goes into my grade as well, A. So yeah, it's yet again a good deal for both sides. I wish it was longer than 3 years, but hey, you have it for 3 more years. You'll worry about that down the line. In 3 years, this whole team will likely be completely different with how the NFL is now. So yeah, it's an A, and it was a solid deal.
Former Giant safety, 2-time Super Bowl champion with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, Logan Ryan. We talked about his value deal earlier in the show, similar to the other safety they just signed. I'll give this a B+. I give it a B+. The pros are obviously the value that you find. Logan Ryan is a great player. He's a veteran player. He's been there before. He's familiar in his role. And it's insurance, I guess, is a way to look at it as well, because he's not going to be starting, but they're filling out that safety room, I think, the best way that they can as well. And, I like this addition. It's nothing that is overly exciting, but when you can get a proven veteran back there, it seems like it makes everything go a little bit easier. And I think Logan Ryan is the type of player to make things easier back there for just about everybody. I mean, he's a guy who knows his role.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. B+. His versatility, his leadership. A lot of people talk about the leadership that he brings to a team, and I'm gonna give it a B+. And also for the money that they gave him, for the very low risk, high reward thing, and his ability to play both corner and safety, which they need, both. Like they could use some depth at slot corner, they could use some depth at safety. So I think he holds tremendous value there, as well as the leadership. So to get him at the price you did, partly because of how his contract was structured with the Giants, that's why you were able to get him how you did. But to get him at that price was very good. So I'll go B+.
Playoff Lenny, running back in Tampa Bay for 3 more seasons. He earned his money. I think he's the first running back the Bucs have paid in a mighty long time. Can you think of the last one?
Probably Doug Martin.
Yeah, Doug Martin. But Leonard Fournette, playoff Lenny, Super Bowl Lenny, whatever you want to call him, he has staked his claim as one of the better running backs we have had in recent seasons. He goes out, he earns his money. I will give this move an A-. I like Lenny back in Tampa Bay. He has definitely won me over, because this time 2 years ago, I was really not that big of a Leonard Fournette fan. I didn't like the addition of him in the running back room when they initially signed him. I really kind of thought Ronald Jones was ready to be in a position to be that guy. And clearly Ronald Jones in Kansas City now, we see how things have shaken out. But I like Lenny back. It's safe. He showed a lot of improvement at the running back position, played one of his best seasons in 2021. He can be one of Tom Brady's favorite targets. I think the A-, one of the things that I worry about is his consistency. Can he perform in all the phases that he did last year at the running back position, the same level of quality this season? Can he do it again? He earned his money. Can he go out there and continue to show why the Buccaneers signed him? I think he can. I have some faith. But as far as re-signing a running back goes, I'll give this an A-.
I originally was going to give it a B, but I'll give it a B+ because it's 3 years, so it's not like a 4 or 5 year deal. I'm not a huge fan of running backs, like anything. Like I really don't think you need to pay a running back more than like $5 million. Like I just don't see the point in it. But for some, there are exceptions, and I mean Fournette definitely earned it. I'm scared of if he reverts back to his, to what he has been in his career, where he's been inconsistent with catching the football, because then his value really goes down and he's not a $7 million player, right? And then he's more of a $5, $4, $3 million player. But I'm just a little nervous about that. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. Just a little nervous in the back of my mind because the 2021 season he was so good that I'm not sure. Can he replicate that? I'm not sure he can. So we'll see. Like I said, he earned that contract. He earned the pay raise. He got a significant pay raise for the last 2 years. He's earned that. He was much better in 2021 than 2020. But I still do have my long-term concerns about him as a running back. And I'm just not necessarily this isn't even really about him. It's just my philosophy on how I would build a football team. This doesn't involve paying a running back that much money. So I'll give it a B+ because I like him. I just don't love him.
Defensive end Will Golston back in Tampa Bay for his 10th season. I will give this a B-. I think he could have got younger at the position. I do really like that Will Golston has the opportunity to be a career guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He has had a second coming in this Todd Bowles defense, and hopefully he continues to improve. He's really good in run support. You'd like to see him get after the passer, but that's just not the type of player he is. So, I mean, it's a safe option. He's a guy who's probably going to be here his entire career. I think you could have gotten younger, maybe a little better at that position, but for the value that you got him, it is what it is. Good to see another guy, a long-time tenured Buck, back on the team. So B- is my grade.
Yeah, I'll go B. It's another safe one for me. I always expect him to be back, so I'll go B. He's a solid player. You know what you're getting with him, right? You're not going to get anything more at this point in his career. You're not going to get anything less. So real quick, before we wrap things up completely, Dark Angel asked, did you guys give your season predictions? No, for 2 reasons. One, schedule isn't even out yet, so that should be released. Typically, it's either 2 weeks before the draft or 2 weeks after the draft. Since you haven't heard a thing about it yet, and it's April 7th, I would guess that last year it was 2 weeks after the draft. So I would guess this year, again, it'll be 2 weeks after the draft. And also, we typically do our big season prediction show. It's like an hour and a half. Sometimes it goes to 2 hours. We will do that either in July or August. It'll be very close to the season that we will do that. We've both been very good. I believe both of our predictions the last 2 years, both of ours have been around the money. We predicted 11-5 in 2020, both of us, and 13-4 in 2021. And even going back to 2019, for me, I predicted 7-9. So I'm on a 3-year stretch of predicting the exact record. So stay tuned for that. But that'll be coming later on as the season gets closer.
I think it's going to be the toughest year we've had yet. I mean, when you look at this,
it is going to be tough to predict. Yeah,
I mean, maybe the number of wins, but it felt like predicting games was a little bit easier last year. But yeah, it's a stacked schedule. That'll be a fun show when we get to it. Let's wrap it up with the final transaction we have to grade. Former Bengals free agent offensive lineman Fred Johnson signed a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a C+, to be honest with you. If I have to give a C to anybody, it'll probably be Fred Johnson. Camp body. It's a guy who's going to be fighting for a spot. He's not going to be starting on our football team. It's good depth to have. The Bengals aren't a great offensive line, so, he has that stigma floating around him already. But for what he is, for what he's going to be used for, and the amount of time he's probably going to play this season, best case scenario, a C+.
Yeah, I was giving it a C+.
Yeah.
I mean, you hope you don't really see him that often. So they re-signed, I'm not sure if you had this on the list, so I won't really mention it, but was that the last name?
Yes.
Okay, so they re-signed Josh Wells as well.
Oh,
whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to give a grade on that. Whatever.
That's another C+. It's a C. C+.
Well, also they re-signed Aaron Stinney. I'll give Aaron Stinney a B.
Yeah, I like Stinney. I think he has earned his spot on this team for sure, man. You got to give him all the credit in the world for being one of our Super Bowl starters. That playoff run.
Yeah. So overall, there it is. That's your free agency grades.
So earlier in the show, if you were just now tuning in, we did give some grades on the latest acquisitions. The return of Giovani Bernard. We put a grade on that one. We put a grade on Keanu Neal. And then, of course, the quarterback, Blaine Gabbert. So I think that's the show, right?
Yeah, that is the show.
No take bag today?
No take back. Not today. I thought about it. Next episode, there will be a take bag.
Yeah?
Next episode, there's going to be a take bag.
Hey,
The take bag will be returning next episode. The bag's here. I'm looking at it, but there's nothing in it right now. So.
It is draft month, ladies and gentlemen. Over these next few weeks, we, of course, will be putting out a couple of podcasts regarding some offensive, some defensive prospects in the 2022 NFL draft. Maybe we'll have some special guests. I don't know. I don't know. We'll try
maybe it'll be Giovani Bernard.
We'll try and open up the Rolodex and see if...
I'm telling you guys, try mission to get Stephen Che on CFP.
Yeah, we'll say the only reason we need your help. The only reason we need your help is because Stephen Che has reached a level of famousness to where you can't just message him on social media. You have to, like, I guess he has to follow you. And we're not cool enough to be followed by Stephen Che over there on Twitter. So we kind of need you guys to do our dirty work for us. But that'd be a fun one. Definitely for sure.
Blast.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the show. Firstly, thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Cannon Fire podcast live over on YouTube today. Got close to 100 people watching, and that's pretty darn cool, if you ask me. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Plenty of great Buccaneers content, of course, the podcast as well, plus much more. Find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL, and you can check out his written work at BucsNation.com. Are you cooking anything up this week?
I should have something regarding the Bucs free agency and how that impacts the drafts, and I should have that within the next few days. So be on the lookout for that. Plus, over at BucsNation.com, not just me, but all of our writers are doing draft profiles. I've done 2 so far. I did Chad Muma, linebacker from Wyoming, and the local kid for me, Jahan Dotson, a wide receiver from Penn State. So that was really fun to do. So go ahead and check them out, as well as many other draft profiles are on there. We're not done yet, so go check that out.
Oh yeah, last but not least, you can find myself Instagram and Twitter at Redicus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. We'll talk to you guys in the next one. We appreciate you hanging out with us today. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish. We'll talk to you next time. Until then, and as always, go Bucs. Wait, hold on. Whoa. What the hell? Hold on. Wait a minute, what am I missing? Because we might have caught it on the last minute here. It's not, no. All right, folks. Well, then I guess we are spared this time. Until then, and as always,